reading through The Secret Knowledge for the first time, and we've come to the top of page 53. Now, just to review a little bit, this is Canto 4 of Book 1. In the first couple of cantos, we were introduced to Savitri, and then in the third canto, we were introduced to Aswapati, her father, whose aspiration brought down to earth the Divine Mother incarnated in his daughter. In the last canto, we were given an overview of Aswapati's spiritual realization, his release from ignorance, and his mind and body's first spiritual change. In this canto, Canto 4, the author, Sri Aurobindo, steps back from the action of the poem and gives us a look at the knowledge that Aswapati has acquired, has realized in his yoga. So he steps back from the action and now gives us a view of reality. And we can also think of Aswapati's yoga as Sri Aurobindo's own. Many have drawn the comparison of Aswapati's realization with Sri Aurobindo's own. Certainly the experiences that are described in the last canto were Sri Aurobindo's own experiences, as really is all of the poem in a sense is, but these, he has given us a view of kind of the higher aspects of that realization in the last canto. And now he's giving us a look at his perception, his experience of the world and of reality in this canto, The Secret Knowledge. So we're going to read through about half of the canto, and then we'll go back and start examining it passage by passage. Helmut, would you like to begin?
Too seldom is the shadow of what must come cast in an instant on the secret sense, which feels the shock of the invisible. And seldom in the few who answer give the mighty process of the cosmic will communicates its image to our sight, identifying the world's mind with ours. Our range is fixed within the crowded arc of what we observe and touch and thought, can guess, and rarely dawns the light of the unknown, waking in us the prophet and the seer. The outward and the immediate are our field. The dead past is our background and support. Mind keeps the soul prisoner. We are slave to our acts. We cannot free our gaze to reach wisdom's sun. Inheritor of the brief animal mind, man, still a child in nature's mighty hands, in the succession of the moment's race. To a changing present, this is now right. His memory stares back at the phantom past, The future flees before him as he moves. He sees imagined garments, not a face. Armed with a limited, precarious strength, he saves his fruits of birth from adverse chance.
Thank you. Anandi, would you continue?
Standing in ignorance is his willful merit. He waits to see the consequence of his acts. He waits to weigh the certainty of his thoughts. He knows not whether to lie. He shall survive. Or end like the mastodon of his love, and beg for the fact what he was king. His ignorance of the meaning of his life, his ignorance of his high and splendid fate. Only mortals in the darkest past will enjoy the walls of time and space. Masters of living, free from the bonds of thought, were overseas of fate and chance and will, and experts of the theory of morning. Here, the might that change time's course, and manage his life from undiscovered wars. Here, by the word towards only history of that blind, the galloping hills of an enforced element, begging for human life, and in passing towards doom and statued pride, return to the silence of the fierce before. As lightning leaves and thunder sweeps, they pass and leave a mark in the traveling rest of life. Above the world creators stand, in the phenomenon sea is mystic sense. This hid not the signal world there. They turn not to the moment this is found. But listen with still patient of your boy, with slow footsteps of our destiny, approaching through huge distance of time and marked by the eye that sees the effect and cause, and heard leave the tremor of the human plane.
Thank you. Mio?
Authentic from unseen truth, this is a sound as of invisible over wings, voices of an uncrowned significance, nurturing the root in the core of a letter's sleep, and the heart's profound audition they can catch, the murmurs lost by life's uncarried ear, a prophet speech in thoughts omniscient trance, above the illusion of their hopes that pass, behind the appearance and the overt act, behind this clockwork trance and veiled silence, amid the wrestle of force, the trampling feet, across the cries of anguish and of joy, across the triumph, fighting and despair, they watch the bliss for which others' heart has cried, and a long road which cannot see its end, winding undetected through the skeptic gaze, and to meet it by the unbeautiful moving world.
Thank you. Tim?
Thus will be marked the transcendent mount is throne, when darkness deep and strangling the earth's breast. Man's corporeal mind in his own movement, as a thief's in the night shall be the covert tread, of one who steps unseen into his house. A voice ill heard shall speak, the soul obey. The power into mind's inner chamber steal, its chamber and sweetness open life's closed doors, and beauty conquer the resisting world. The truth light capture nature by surprise, a stealth throat compel the heart to bliss, and earth broke unexpected.
Thank you. Okay, now I would like to go back to the beginning of the canto and begin to go through it passage by passage. This is about half of the canto we've read so far. It's a long canto. So, Nitya, would you like to begin? The start of the canto. Yes.
In the beginning, 46.
Yes. Correct.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
On a height and steep that look towards the our early approaches to the infinite, our sunrise splendors on a marvelous verge, while lingers yet unseen the glorious sun. What now we see is a shadow of what must come. The earth's uplook to a remote unknown is a preface only of the epic climb of human soul from its flat earthly state to the discovery of a greater self and the far viewing of an eternal light. This world is a beginning and a base, where life and mind erect their structured dreams. An unborn power must build reality.
Thank you. Here, Sri Aurobindo seems to almost go to the beginning of the poem with this image of the sun rising again. And at first, the first light before the sun actually comes over the horizon lights up the sky and gives the beautiful colors, and while lingers yet unseen the glorious sun. So. And then we're kind of given an image of climbing in the mountains. And as we get to one peak of a mountain, then we can see further and we can see the peaks of still higher mountains in the distance. Which is kind of an image of the human soul climbing up in its evolution, reaching a certain height, a certain peak in his development, and from there seeing how much further yet he has to go, the higher possibilities that await in the future. So he's saying this world in which we live is still just a beginning, where life and mind erect their structured dreams. But an unborn power must build reality. What we see are just dreams, kind of images of the reality. But a greater power must build the real reality for us.
And we then have three sunrise splendors on the marvelous verge. Okay, the approaches are splendors of the sunrise on the verge.
On the edge are sunrise splendors on a marvelous verge. Okay, yeah, it's, we see,
Mountains.
but I see it in a kind of symbolic way of there are these splendors that we see, but yet greater splendors are yet to come over the verge, over the edge of what we see now,
Mother once
over the horizon.
I think she once mentioned somewhere that even the physical sun that we see in material level is almost so black in compared to supramental sun. What we see is and it's also lying Savitri. The whole world is only in the only ray of our sun. That is, it's really nothing. It's just.
Yeah, our perception, our kind of mind-built perception of the world, it's just a darkened kind of shadow of the true reality, the true sun.
Just before is Savitri, no? Savitri means that, no? Before the sun.
Yes.
Because it's that also.
Yeah, the whole meaning of Savitri is this light coming before the sunrise.
Before the sun, yeah. Now, this canto is an exception. What she means, you expression. I don't get it fully.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned that also, that it's as if Sri Aurobindo steps back from the action of the poem. And it's almost as if the author kind of comes forward and narrates a kind of perception of existence and what it is and its meaning. Shraddhavan calls it kind of another Upanishad. So it's kind of, it's a really significant view of existence, which is Sri Aurobindo's own and quite different in a way than the traditional Indian scriptures give it, because he gives the world such significance here. He presents it as the kind of outflowering, the evolution of the divine in the world. That kind of significance was never brought forward, I think, so clearly before. And we see that in the canto. And this whole image that he's presenting here with the sunrise and the view of the mountains in the distance and the higher climb that we have to attain. These are all kind of images of that, in a sense, of the greater light, the greater possibilities of our existence here in the world, and how this is just what we see now is only a beginning, and there's much more to come.
But you discover this what you talk about inner evolution. Yes?
Yeah, inner evolution.
Yeah, inner. But secret knowledge for me is really, really, I love so much also. And is really, really deep and is for the future, description of the future. But when inside, you go inside, you discover really small way about this part. For me, it's like that.
Yeah, in a sense, the whole outer experience, the whole outer evolution is also kind of an outer manifestation of this inner evolution that we have to also kind of reveal within ourselves in our own spiritual development and growth.
Thank you. Irene?
Yes.
The death-bound littleness is not all we are. Immortal out-forgotten vastnesses, well-discovered in our summit selves, unmeasured breadth and deeps, of being are ours. Akin to the ineffable secrecy, mystic, eternal, in unrealized time, neighbors of heaven are nature's altitude. To this high-picked dominions, to our search, too far from surface nature hostile, to lofty for our mortal leaf to breath, deep in us, a forgotten kind ship points, a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer, calls to those Russian lost immensities. Even when we fail to look into our souls, or lie embedded in earthly consciousness, still hard with hearts that glow towards the light. Yet, are there luminous tracks and events so heavy, and Eldorados of splendor and ecstasy, and temples to the God that none can see.
Thank you. This first sentence that you read is really kind of a follow-up of those earlier images, and it gives the kind of more psychological, spiritual significance of those images, saying that this life that we're leading now, this death-bound littleness, is not all we are, and that there is much more to our being that remains hidden to us, that we can realize. Which is even immortal. Immortal are forgotten vastnesses, await discovery in our summit selves. Here that summit again recalls the mountain heights seen in the distance. Unmeasured breadths and depths of being are ours. We have a much wider, greater existence than this kind of surface life, but it's unseen to us.
And the king goes with what?
What do you mean, Sabine? I don't.
Yeah, similar, related. Part of our kin means part of our family, our relations.
Yeah, but it goes with what? What is a king?
These immortal vastnesses. So they're mystic, they're hidden, eternal and unrealized in time. Neighbors of heaven are nature's altitudes. So just like the mountain peaks are neighbors of heaven, of the sky, so these inner vastnesses are neighbors to our earthly life, our physical life.
But when you tell nature with big N is when you change low nature and supranature, or middle.
I think,
But nature altitude, alors maybe supranature.
yeah, but we have a here, supernature here in the evolution. So I think, my understanding is he's trying to say that there's a painting that Buddha drew of 8, the symbol 8, where the infinity of the supreme joins with the nature below. Where there's a line where the two are one, the soul and nature is essentially one.
Yeah.
So it is the supernature, but it is also the nature here which is evolving. So I think he's trying to say the physical nature that we have, the material nature itself in evolution is similar to the ineffable secrecy above, and is trying to equate that its potentiality is that.
Yeah, I think he's using it in a more general sense of nature, not limiting it to the divine nature, but including that divine nature, perhaps, but including all of nature. So nature's altitudes is, in a sense, the higher nature, right?
It's very interesting when she tells about 8.
Yeah.
In agenda,
The symbol of infinity.
Describe 8. The 0 is the head of the Supreme, and the show is the Shakti, down. Down is the Shakti of Supreme. It's very, very interesting, but the design, the picture in agenda is very, very fun. 8 number, 8 infinite.
She's also given this image of the snake eating its tail. So, the head of the snake is also meeting the lower end of the snake, right? And so they're joined. And in fact, she talked about that kind of going down into matter is also the way away, or a quick way of going to the top of nature, to the Supreme. The Supreme is also in matter. So if we go down into matter, we can also get to the Supreme. And then he's saying that normally these high peaks are closed to our sight, to our experience, sealed to our search, too far from surface nature's postal routes. Well, the mailman, he goes on his route, right? The commerce of everyday life the postman doesn't go up to the top of the mountains to deliver the mail. You don't get it up there. There, it's too lofty for our mortal lives to breathe. The air is very thin at the top of the mountains. But within us, something points to those. Somehow, human beings always have this kind of inner urge to climb the highest mountain. Because we feel a kinship, we feel something, a connection with that. And something in us, a faint voice of ecstasy and prayer, calls to those lucent, lost immensities. Lucent is luminous, glowing with light. And then he says something interesting, that even when we fail to look into our souls, or we are embedded in earthly consciousness, still have we parts that grow towards the light. It's quite interesting. There's some inner parts of our being that are still growing towards the light, still striving, still aspiring, even though we may not be aware.
Also, it's difficult to see this evolution.
Yet are there luminous tracks and heavens serene and Eldorados of splendor and ecstasy and temples to the Godhead none can see. These Eldorados are interesting. Bhavan discusses this in her book, English of Savitri. She says originally it's kind of a Spanish word meaning golden one, but it refers to the city of gold that was sought by the conquistadors, this kind of mythical city of gold. And it's kind of come down to mean kind of a wonderful golden dream or goal that people may have. Sudanya, would you continue?
A shapeless memory lingers in us still. And sometimes when our sight is turned within, Earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes. There is a short, miraculous escape. This narrow fringe of cramped experience leave behind waited was as high. Or little walks of insufficient reach, or certain visit in great lonely hours, still regions of imperishable light, all sinking peaks of sun fall, and moved from oceans of swift heavenless bliss, and calm immensities of sweet face. In the unfolding process of the sun, sometimes in expressing mystery, he left a hidden vessel of descent. And when come down from a superior air, the presence is born, the guiding light sights. The stillness falls upon the instrument, fixed, motionless, like a marble moon, stone calm. The body is a pedestrian, supporting a figure of eternal peace.
Thank you. So he's given us a closer, more detailed description of these higher altitudes that lie above, but within our reach, within our possible experience, hidden from us deep within. Where he's saying sometimes when we're turned within, when our sight is turned within, earth's ignorant veil is lifted from our eyes, and there is a short, miraculous escape. We can kind of escape from this outer view of our existence and see something from within, or something from those heights comes down and reveals itself to our sight. This narrow fringe of clamped experience. That's our present, everyday experience, very restricted, clamped, closed. We leave behind, meted to us as life. Meted means given out by measure, dole. It's kind of, if you're on the dole, you're just kind of given a certain small amount to get by, to live with, a certain amount of money. A our little walks, our insufficient reach. So all of that we leave behind, and then our souls can visit in great lonely hours, still regions of imperishable light. All-seeing eagle peaks of silent power, and moon-flame oceans of swift, fathomless bliss, and calm immensities of spirit space.
The sentence 38, we leave behind, so what do we leave behind? The narrow fringe?
Yes, that our
And the
clammed
little walls
experience.
and our insufficient reach?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
all these we leave behind, which are needed to us as life, yes?
Yeah, that little clamped experience that we normally have, that very restricted life, we leave that behind.
And it's a bit strange to see flame with moon.
Number?
Say again.
43.
Three?
Moon flame.
Moon flame oceans.
Yeah, the flame with moon it's strange. Yeah, when
Maybe lit, oceans lit by the moon.
This shapeless memory, can we think about it?
What?
About shape, memory?
Again?
Huh?
Shapeless memory.
Shapeless.
Of the line 33, second line.
A shapeless memory lingers in us still.
Without shape.
Yeah, kind of vague memory. Unclear. Just a sense of something, but not a clear memory.
Some senses there.
Yeah. Not precise.
For example, I tell you, still a region of imperishable light. When you distinguish imperishable light, when you stay in the silence, in the peace, but when, for example, I have many experience, suddenly I go sleep. Not sleep, but totally calm. And when I stand up, I am another level of consciousness. But I register too, when I sleep, some receptivity in my body, mind, like, no?
Yeah, I think that's what he's describing. Something, some experience,
Yeah.
and the experience can be of light, it can be of power, it can be of peace, it can be of bliss. He describes all four of those. It can take different forms.
Okay, different form. Okay. Yeah.
Experience, different experience.
Different experiences of the divine,
Yeah.
different qualities. And then he says, in the unfolding process of the self, sometimes the inexpressible mystery elects a human vessel of descent.
Of this.
Now that could refer to a very special being or an avatar like Aswapati, but we'll see later. I think he makes it more general, and that this could happen to anyone. So again, he'll give some more kind of different forms or qualities that experience might take. A presence, is born, a guiding light awakes, a stillness falls on the body, such that it becomes,
You forgot the breath comes down from supernal.
yeah, a breath comes down.
Supernal air. What do you mean, supernal?
Supernal is heavenly, divine. A breath coming down from that, I don't know, something of its atmosphere, I suppose, something of the quality of that nature. Shall we continue? Yeah, aura revealing force.
Our revealing force sweeps blazing out of some vast superior continent. Knowledge breaks through, trailing its distant seas. And nature trembles with the power of the king. The greater personality sometimes possesses us, which yet we know is ours. For we adore the master of our souls. Then the small body ego begins and falls, no more existing on its separate self, losing the punctilio of its separate birth. It leaves us one with nature and with God. In moments when the inner lives are weak and the lives cherished guests are left outside, our spirit sits alone and speaks to its loves. A wider consciousness opens than its doors, unveiling from spiritual silence. The day of the timeless glory streams by to commune without ceased illuminated care and leaves its huge white stamp upon our lives.
Thank you.
We need more.
So he gives us some more ways in which this divine consciousness or force can come down into our lives. It can come as peace, it can come as light, as bliss. Here it comes as a revealing force, sweeps blazing in out of some vast superior continent. And knowledge breaks through trailing. Knowledge breaks through trailing its radiancies. Oh. The revealing force sweeps blazing in. Out of some vast superior continent, knowledge breaks through, trailing its radiancies. And nature trembles with the power, the flame.
To sweep is to come with force.
Yeah. Kind of widely, taking everything with it, sweeping along everything in its wake. And then another form it can take, a greater personality, sometimes possesses us, which yet we know is ours. We have this kind of limited physical personality that we normally identify with, but maybe also in our inner beings we have a greater personality that we can experience at times. there are powers of the mother, the personalities of the four great personalities of the mother. Also, these are kind of powers, personalities of our own souls that we here express, and we may express one or other of these to a greater extent. Our own individuality may be more receptive or more kind of instrumental of one or another of these four powers of the mother. So some people would manifest greater force, others greater light, others, harmony and beauty and bliss. So mother's four personalities are also reflected in, these are powers of the soul as well within us. So it might kind of refer to these kind of soul personalities that we have.
Is a Gnostic being, l'être gnostique in French.
And then he gives us one other kind of form that this experience may take, or we adore the master of our souls. Maybe this intense bhakti or something may come forward. And when we have these experiences, then our kind of small, egoistic personality may thin and fall off. No more insisting on its separate self, losing the punctilio of its separate birth.
Punctilio?
In Latin, a point. Yeah, but it's used in a broader sense. Shraddhavan describes it. People concerned with small details, especially regarding their dignity and honor. Like some people say, how dare you say such a thing, to me. I'm this, special person. You can't talk to me that way.
Actually, it comes from painting.
Comes from where?
From painting.
Yes.
Lots of color. Pointillism. They are separate.
Impressionisme.
Impressionism.
No, pointillism.
Oh, point.
Pointillism.
Yeah, something like that.
Indigenous art.
Just
The dots.
dots on it.
But here, I think losing that kind of sense of being this kind of limited person, of being important, of needing to be respected. So losing that sense of our narrow self, it leaves us one with nature and with God. A good exchange? A good exchange?
Sounds nice.
And the next line is also very beautiful. In moments when the inner lamps are lit and the life's cherished guests are left outside, our spirit sits alone and speaks to its gulfs. The depths of our being. Sri Aurobindo tells us, we have to learn to live within. We have to go deeper within and not always be attached to the surfaces of life. To sometimes leave that behind and commune with our inner being. And then a wider consciousness opens its doors, invading from spiritual silences. A ray of the timeless glory stoops a while to commune with our seized, illumined clay and leaves its huge white stamp upon our lives.
In the oblivious field of mortal mind, revealed to the closed prophet eyes of trance, or in deep internal solitude, witnessed by strange immaterial sense, the signals of eternity, the truth mind could not know unveils its face. We hear what mortal ears have never heard. We feel what earthly senses never felt. We love what common hearts repel and dread. Our minds hush to a bright omniscient. A voice calls from the chambers of the soul. We meet the ecstasy of the Godhead's touch in golden premises of immortal fire.
Thank you. Let's pause. So he's giving us some more forms in which this spiritual descent may take. And here he's focusing on knowledge, a greater knowledge coming. In the oblivious field of mortal mind, in the field of our normal mind, revealed to the closed prophet eyes of trance. So only in this deep trance, in some deep internal solitude, the signals of eternity appear. The truth mind could not know unveils its face. And we hear what mortal ears have never heard. We feel what earthly sense has never felt. We love what common hearts repel and dread. Our minds hush to a bright omniscient.
This hush is a good.
Hush.
Yeah, it can be.
It's
Quietens. Quiets.
Maybe we feel that the Passion Body was the first and we know the second. No? Very simple. And that's difficult.
So in the quietness and the silence of the mind, this bright omniscient here he's referring to it in a kind of a personal sense, not only just a bright omniscience, but a bright omniscience, a being. And then a voice, it speaks, calls from the chambers of the soul. We meet the ecstasy of the Godhead's touch in golden privacies of immortal fire. Turi?
These signs are native to a larger self that lives within us by ourselves unseen. Only sometimes a holier influence comes. A tide of mightier surgings bears our lives, and a diviner presence moves the soul. Or through the earthly coverings, something breaks. The grace and beauty of spiritual light, the murmuring tone of a celestial fire. Ourself and a high stranger whom we feel, it is an act unseen as if it were not. It follows the line of sempiternal birth, yet seems to perish with its mortal frame. Assured of the apocalypse to be, it reckons not the moments and the hours, great, patient, calm. It sees the centuries pass, awaiting the slow miracle of our change. In the sure deliberate process of world wars and the long march of all living time.
Thank you. Here, these signs probably refers again to a few, some lines above, 10 lines above, where he says the signals of eternity appear. But in general, I think it's these different forms of experience that one may have. These kinds of experiences are native to a larger self that lives within us, by ourselves unseen. In our higher being, our inner being. Only sometimes a holier influence comes from that inner or higher self. A tide of mightier surgings bears our lives, like with the rising tide, carries our lives. And a diviner presence moves the soul. The grace and beauty of spiritual light, the murmuring tongue of a celestial fire. Flame of fire can have what appears like a tongue of the flame. Here murmuring, speaking something in a low tone. In this line, ourself and a high stranger whom we feel. It's both ourself and seems like a high stranger. It's our inner being, our greater being within. It is and acts unseen, as if it were not. It follows the line of sempiternal birth. Sempiternal, never-ending, eternal. Yet seems to perish with its mortal frame. He might be referring to our psychic being here. Assured of the apocalypse to be.
You can relate the apocalypse with the hour of God?
Yes, I think so. The hour of God is kind of, the hour of God is when the earth is kind of trembling in a kind of a crisis mode as the divine or a greater kind of world is coming into being.
A friend of mine, very Christian, she sent to me the other day a mail talking about the hour of God. I said, clever, Auroville. He found another way to say the apocalypse. And I was again shocked, because they never thought of that. And somehow, it's that.
Yeah, in the Christian tradition, apocalypse, it's both, kind of the ending of the present world and the great destruction, but also the revelation of the new world to come.
I think that she's right. I think.
Yeah, I was listening to Marad's, once I had listened to Marad's Savitri Study, and he mentioned what knowingly Canto had written about this work, because he had his own, I think he had given some interpretation of certain lines in words in Savitri, and he meant this was the supramental manifestation.
I don't know, for me, the apocalypse it means the revelation of the supermind.
Yeah, that's what she's also kind of saying.
Yeah, no, it's true that before they have this shaking state that would be before, no?
But it kind of comes traditionally in the Christian tradition. The end of the world and the coming of the world with Christ reborn. So here, this kind of inner being, this greater being, is assured of that coming revelation of the divine. So it's not so concerned with the moments and the hours. It's great, patient, calm, sees the centuries pass. It's an immortal being, sempiternal, awaiting the slow miracle of our change. In the sure, deliberate process of world force, also the change of the world, the evolution of the world, and the long march of all revealing time. Shall we continue, Tinaka? Go on.
It is the origin and the master clue, the silence overhead, an inner voice, the living image seated in the heart, an unwalled wideness and a fathomless point, the truth of all these cryptic shows in space, the real towards which our strivings move, the secret grandiose meaning of our lives, a treasure of honey in the columns of God. A splendor burning in a tenebrous cloak. It is our glory of the flame of God. Our golden fountain of the world's delight. An immortality cowed in the cape of death. The shape of our unborn divinity. It guards for us our faith in death, within where sleeps the eternal seed of transient things. Always we bear in us a magic key, concealed in life's erratic envelope. A burning witness in the sanctuary, regards through time and the blind walls of form. A timeless light is in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no words can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world, in the heart of the mystery of the journey of years.
Thank you. Again, he is giving us some different forms this inner reality may take on to us. It's the origin and the master clue, a silence overhead.
What's a master clue?
It's the clue that unlocks all the secrets. Two birds.
And the other looking, and it's always together.
The two birds on the tree. The Purusha and Prakriti. Again, a living image seated in the heart, an unwalled wideness and a fathomless point. Takes all these different forms. The truth of all these cryptic shows in space. Cryptic is occult, obscure, secret. So it's the truth of all these things we see, but that mystery behind them all. The real towards which our strivings move. The secret, grandiose meaning of our lives. It's all of these things. A treasure of honey in the combs of God. A splendor burning in a tenebrous cloak. Tenebrous, shut from light, dark, obscure. It is our glory of the flame of God, our golden fountain of the world's delight. An immortality cowled in the cape of death. Cowled again is this kind of hooded cloak that the monks wear. Cowled in the cape of death. The shape of our unborn divinity. It guards for us our fate in depths within, where sleeps the eternal seed of transient things. Our fate is there in that eternal seed, hidden within it. And always we bear in us a magic key concealed in life's hermetic envelope. So we have the key to the change, to the future, to our fate.
What is exactly means hermetic envelope? Is in the body?
Well, it means it's characterized by occultism, abstruse, obscure. It refers to Hermes, this god who brought the secret knowledge also, I guess. But hermetic, it I think typically means sealed.
I would say like hermits means they hermits who live in caves. So is it like
Oh, hermit. You're referring it to hermit.
But I didn't say it also hermit. I didn't hear it.
Difficult to understand. Difficult to understand.
Yes. Yeah. It's concealed within, hidden, obscure, occult.
Which refers to all our life, I mean, our body, our mind, our vital,
Well, it's referring to that kind of hidden reality deep within us. Closed off from our outer consciousness. But still we have the key to that. And there, deep within, a burning witness in the sanctuary, regards through time and the blind walls of form, a timeless light in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no words can speak and knows the goal of the unconscious world and the heart of the mystery of the journeying years. Deep within, that witness is there, the sanctuary of our soul. It has the secret knowledge.